Imagine him, hunched over on the side of his mattress after a grueling day, eyes fixed on the floor, heavy backpack still strapped to his shoulders. What you choose to say in the next 10 seconds will effectively script how he processes failure for the rest of his life. Before a boy turns 8, his developing brain is aggressively deciding which emotional blueprints to solidify and which to discard. The neural circuits that are reinforced through daily repetition, through raw feeling, and through your specific reactions become his permanent infrastructure. The ones that aren't utilized simply begin to wither away. And in this fleeting window, fathers possess more psychological leverage than they will ever have again. These are the 8 core lessons that developmental experts like Dr. Daniel Siegel insist are the most vital. Not because they're easy to teach, but because they are rooted in biological reality. Between the ages of 6 and 8, the brain undergoes a massive overhaul known as synaptic pruning. It archives the emotional responses he's practiced and deletes the ones he hasn't. This isn't just a metaphor, it's neurological. Young boys are navigating what researchers call the 5 to 7 shift, the bridge from a world of magical fantasy to the structured rules of logical reasoning. A child who once believed he had superpowers starts to grasp the actual limits of the physical world. The son who thought his dad was invincible begins to see the man, watching intently to see how that man handles being imperfect. During this metamorphosis, his internal beliefs about whether feelings are safe, whether mistakes are fatal, and whether he is worthy of love when he falls, become hardwired into his system. These following insights aren't about being a perfect parent. They are about being a present one. Because once this developmental door begins to shut, those internal scripts become incredibly difficult to rewrite. 1. Emotional literacy. The primary lesson is straightforward but often neglected. Feelings are data points, not signs of weakness. Research into emotional intelligence shows that boys who can name it to tame it, labeling frustration, grief, or joy, demonstrate superior self-control and more stable relationships later in life. They are less likely to lash out when they're overwhelmed, more capable of articulating their needs, and better prepared to handle friction without escalating it. Yet many American boys are never given the proper vocabulary for their hearts. When he's sitting on that bed, eyes downcast, backpack still on, that silent moment carries more weight than any tough guy lecture. If the reaction is, shake it off, or don't sweat it, the takeaway is clear. What you're feeling doesn't deserve to exist. But if the response is, that looks really hard, or do you want to talk about it? Even if he chooses silence, the lesson shifts. It says, your inner world is legitimate, and I'm not afraid of it. This is where synaptic pruning matters most. The emotional habits he practices now, labeling feelings instead of burying them, become his default settings for manhood. 2. Integrity through action. Respect is something modeled, not something commanded. Developmental psychology confirms that children adopt behavioral standards long before they can even explain them. What feels normal in your living room becomes his baseline for the locker room, the internet, and his relationships 10 years down the line. When he catches how his father speaks about a stranger in traffic, whether with patience or with toxic contempt, he's learning what is acceptable. When he watches how you treat a service worker who makes a mistake, or how you refer to people who think differently than you do, these aren't formal teaching moments, they are absorbed through observation. Here is the fallout when this lesson is absent. Boys who grow up hearing casual disrespect dismissed as just a joke often lose the ability to see where the line of dignity is. They don't view themselves as mean, they view themselves as normal. True respect doesn't require you to agree. It requires the acknowledgement that another person's humanity isn't conditional on how they make you feel. 3. Valor without cruelty. Studies on adolescent development have found something that challenges old-school myths of toughness. Empathy reduces aggression more effectively than discipline alone. When he hesitates before standing up for a classmate and looks toward you, That glance isn't a sign of weakness, it's him searching for wisdom. He is asking the question that will define how he uses power for the rest of his life. Is protecting someone braver than dominating them? Is walking away from a fight you don't need to have an act of cowardice or an act of massive strength? Your answer in that moment doesn't need to be a speech. It can be a simple nod, a hand on his shoulder, or a quiet, "I'm proud of you" afterward. Because what he's learning isn't just how to treat others. He's learning what kind of character earns a father's respect. These first 3 pillars define how he sees himself. The next 3 define how he acts when things get heavy. 4. Accountability, the gift of failure. When he forgets his lunch and you rush it to school, you think you're being supportive, but the subconscious lesson is different. It says, mistakes don't have consequences, discomfort is optional, and there will always be a rescue. Research into executive function, the brain's management system, shows that children who experience natural and logical consequences, rather than arbitrary punishments, develop far stronger problem-solving skills. When he forgets that homework and has to face his teacher, he learns that uncomfortable situations are survivable. When he breaks something and is guided to help fix it, he learns that mistakes are solvable, not catastrophic. Fast forward 15 years, when he's hiding a major error at work because he was never taught how to recover from one. That instinct was built in those small moments where rescuing him felt like love, but was actually hindering his growth. Responsibility isn't about making a child feel ashamed. It's about making him feel capable. 5. Grit over perfection. When the bike tips over for the 5th time and he looks back, not for help, but for permission, he's asking a question that will shape his next 20 years. Is struggling okay, or does struggling mean I'm a failure? Growth mindset research shows this specific moment matters more than the actual outcome. Because what he's learning right now isn't just how to ride a bike, it's whether effort is something to be proud of or something to hide. Boys who are praised for their effort rather than their talent develop massive long-term motivation. They are more willing to take on challenges, more comfortable with the grind, and less likely to quit when things don't come easily. And the brain is still deciding which belief to keep, that persistence is a virtue, or that only the win matters. 6. The strength of asking for help. Social-emotional studies reveal something that contradicts what many boys absorb without ever hearing it spoken. Seeking support isn't a sign of a lack, it's a sign of self-awareness. When he whispers from the hallway at night because a nightmare or a worry feels too heavy to carry alone, your reaction in that moment becomes his blueprint. If he is met with frustration or a "go back to bed," he learns to stop asking. If he is met with your presence, he learns that connection is the ultimate safety net for his soul. Without this foundation, boys often become men who isolate under pressure, who won't reach out when their marriage is struggling, and who view vulnerability as a defect. But reaching out is wisdom, and it's a skill that must be practiced early before shame has time to harden around it. These final 2 lessons determine whether he merely survives hard seasons or actually thrives through them. 7. Gratitude and perspective. Positive psychology links early gratitude practices to long-term emotional well-being. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's the ability to notice what's working, even when life is messy. When the house is finally quiet and you ask, "What was one good thing that happened today?" Even if the answer is tiny, you are building something. You're teaching him that difficulty and goodness can coexist in the same day, that a hard day can still contain a moment worth remembering. Boys who practice this aren't more naive, they are more resilient because they've learned that their attention is a powerful tool. 8. Love without strings. When he's just blown it, broke a rule, lost his temper, or hurt someone, and he's bracing for you to pull away, what happens next will stay with him longer than any lecture. Because in that moment, he's not just learning if he's in trouble, he's learning whether he is still forgivable, whether his worth is conditional on his behavior, or whether it's something that can never be taken away. Attachment theory is unambiguous on this. Boys who experience conditional love spend their entire adult lives trying to earn what should have been a given. They chase external status because internal worth was never established. But boys who know they are loved for who they are, not what they do, develop a security that no storm can shake. This doesn't mean there are no consequences. It means consequences are delivered with care, not with contempt. It means correction comes with connection. It means he learns that mistakes do not cost him his sense of belonging. The research shows a clear divide. Boys who believe their father's love depends on achievement often become men who never feel good enough. Boys who experience steadiness when they fail learn that their value is a foundation, not a prize. Years from now, when he's 30 or 40, facing a moment that terrifies him, or leading a family of his own, the voice he hears in his head won't be his, it will be yours. Not just the words you said, but the tone you used, the grace you showed, and the steadiness you maintained when he was falling apart. Research into memory formation suggests that children retain the emotional flavor of memories long after the details fade. He may not remember every household rule, but he will remember how it felt to be truly seen, to be studied, and to be believed in. Researchers call this intergenerational transmission, the passing down of psychological patterns. Fathers simply call it a legacy. But really, it's just this. The story he tells himself when no one else is watching is being built from the moments you gave him before age 8. These lessons aren't about shaping a perfect child. They are about shaping the inner narrative he'll use when life gets hard, or when he's tempted to give up or lash out. That inner compass is being calibrated right now. The research doesn't demand perfection from you. It highlights the massive power of repair. When a father falls short and then owns it, he teaches responsibility and unconditional love in the exact same moment. He shows his son that mistakes aren't the end of the world, that apologies are vital, and that integrity includes accountability. Developmental science is clear. Consistent presence matters more than flawless execution. A father who shows up, who tries, and who repairs when he falls short, that father is more than enough. The window is short, and while the brain can always learn, it will never be this receptive to your influence again. Every conversation, every act of patience, every time you prove that failure doesn't cost him your heart, those moments are happening right now. Before age 8, there is still time. So here is the only question that matters. Which one lesson will you practice this week? Not all 8, just one, because small, intentional moments are how a lifetime of character is built.